Today, Team Fortress 2 is home to plenty of medals and other cosmetics representing the many amazing community projects, charity tournaments and other positive contributions to the extended world of Team Fortress 2. But years before most of these items were added to the game, and indeed long before many of those projects even existed, there was an original community branded hat. A hat representing a community project that has been running pretty much since the game launched and is still active today as an exemplary beacon of the community's love for Team Fortress. A hat which is amongst the rarest in the game, yet it can still be unlocked today, although at the same time it will eventually run out. Let's meet the Lo-Fi Longwave. This video is brought to you by me. To support the channel, you can check out official Casper merch from the link in the description, including this awesome new embroidered logo tie-dye t-shirt. Or you can become a channel member right here on YouTube, which will give you access to unique badges and a shout out in every video, just like right now. Thank you to Team Killer for being officially my #1 fan. Thank you, and I hope everyone enjoys the video.
Woo! Check it out, Casper!
To understand why the Lo-Fi Longwave is such a notable cosmetic, we need to understand the community that it represents. Kritzcast. Kritzcast is a TF2 focused community run podcast with nearly 500 episodes since the show officially started in 2008. The podcast is focused on the latest TF2 news, of course, when there was some, interviews with well-known community members, interviews with Valve staff, included Team Fortress creator Robin Walker himself, and occasionally just a bunch of TF2 fans having a good old-fashioned chit-chat. More recently, Kritzcast has expanded its content to also cover the still loved by many competitive side of Team Fortress, featuring regular match coverage on their YouTube and Twitch channels, while still producing the traditional interview-style podcasts on a regular basis. Even though the Lo-Fi Longwave was originally created in Kritzcast's honour back in 2011, the fact that they are still here 9 years after the hat's introduction and nearly 13 years since their original inception, working hard every single week to keep the Team Fortress community entertained, really is a testament to why Valve added this hat in the first place. You can only assume that they knew passion when they saw it. So we can probably all appreciate why this hat was added, but how is an even more interesting and a little bit funny story. Back in the early days of Kritzcast, the regular team consisted of several members, including John Irwin, aka Aggro, who is still the main person behind the podcast today, and who kindly allowed me to interview him to provide most of the information in this video, and there was also a guy named Boobies from Australia, amongst a few others. And that factoid of Boobies' homeland is not just thrown in for a laugh, it's actually a quite important element to the rest of this story. Sometime in 2010, Boobies was visiting America for his day job, but whilst he was there, he thought why not see if he and some of his fellow podcasters could pop in and meet the developers of the game that they love so much. Not wanting to squander this opportunity, the group spent months trying to craft the perfect email to Valve to avoid looking over-eager or like crazy fanboys, and then run the risk of getting turned down. The email was eventually sent by Boobies, and the message that they settled on went something like this. Hi Robin. I'm Australian and you're Australian. I hear that North America has made you soft and you're no longer able to drink beer, so I challenge you to a beer when I'm in the area later this year. Amazingly, this worked, and a date to go to the Valve offices was arranged. Whilst there, the Kritzcast team had the opportunity to speak to plenty of developers, animators and other Valve staff working on Team Fortress 2 at the time. And they even saw an early cut of Meet the Medic SFM, a whole year before it was eventually released. It was during a chat with one Valve staffer working on Team Fortress 2 at the time that staffer quite simply offered to create a hat in-game in Kritzcast's honour. And it will of course come as no surprise to anyone that they said yes. In the weeks following their visit to Valve, the Kritzcast team brainstormed how they would want their hat to look. Eventually, they settled on the idea of a radio tower coming directly out of the player's head. Unfortunately, the original sketches of this particular idea are lost to time, but we do have this crumpled, coffee-stained sheet of doodles from fellow TF2 player and friend of the show named Rusky Doo. Aggro from Kritzcast reliably informs me that the crumples and coffee stains were actually added intentionally, purely for aesthetic reasons. Around the time that this idea was sent over to Valve, Valve were actually working on a little game you might have heard of called Portal 2, and they already had what was now known as the Aperture Labs hard hat model in production. Valve ultimately decided to utilise this hard hat model and combine it with the proposed radio tower from the Kritzcast squad, and what we ended up with is the lo-fi longwave as we know it today. Whilst the hat can still be obtained today, which we will discuss in just a moment, its original distribution is of course worth knowing about. Because the hat is a Kritzcast branded hat, the original plan was to give it to genuine fans of Kritzcast, and that's exactly what happened. The first wave of lo-fi longwaves was given to people who achieved a passing score in a Kritzcast themed quiz. The quiz was engineered in such a way so that those who were pre-existing members of the Kritzcast Steam group needed a lower score than others, meaning that those who were long-time fans, or those who were simply just big enough fans to get the questions right regardless, were the ones most likely to earn the hat. The quiz was also set up so that the correct answers weren't revealed at the end of the quiz. Therefore, they could never be shared with confidence between people who were just filling out the quiz for a freebie, thus further ensuring that the majority of hats ended up in the hands of real Kritzcast listeners. Since that original distribution, the hat has now been awarded in tens of different contests and events, including a charity drive where donators could earn the longwave as well as a chance to play with TF2's own creator Robin Walker, being nominated by a loved one during a Valentine's celebration, by getting a high score in fan-made TF2 spin-off Sandwich Maker 3000, or even for writing the best haiku. Today, there are two main ways to still obtain the legendary lo-fi longwave. Take part in one of the aforementioned events or competitions which still run regularly, such as the recent, worryingly titled Edging competition, where players have to get as close as they can to levelling up in casual mode without actually levelling up. The second main way to still obtain the hat today is by doing something impactful for the Team Fortress 2 community. This could be creating a useful website, running a charity event, maintaining some welcoming community servers, creating maps, making YouTube videos, or just about anything that has a positive output for the players and lovers of Team Fortress 2. As a general rule, the lo-fi longwave is awarded in vintage quality to those who are recognised to have earned it through a deliberate act, such as a competition. The unique quality one is reserved for those who are lucky enough to be seen by Kritzcast as making a positive impact on the promotion of TF2 to a wider audience. Kritzcast will never award a longwave to someone who asks for one. One of the exciting things about the lo-fi longwave is that despite it having been distributed continually for 9 years now, its numbers are finite. When I interviewed Aggro live on the podcast in May, he made that fact very clear. He also made it clear that he has absolutely no intention of sharing exactly how many are left. One day, heck, it could even be today, a lo-fi longwave will be awarded and it will be the very last one. And that mystery of no one, other than a few people behind the podcast, knowing just how many there are to be given, makes this already significant hat in TF2's history all the more unique. So if you do want this beacon of power of TF2's community, you can listen to the podcast and take part in Kritzcast community events. Alternatively, you can join or start that TF2 community project that you've been thinking about for a while, and you might be lucky enough to be spotted. Either way, you'll have a chance to earn a piece of Team Fortress history for yourself. A special thanks to John Aggro Irwin, the long-time and current man behind and in front of the curtain at Kritzcast, without whom this video wouldn't exist, and very possibly without whom the lo-fi longwave might not even exist. If you want to know the story of another of TF2's extra special items, check out my video, Meet the Golden Wrench. You can look at all my currently available Casper merch here, you can subscribe here if you haven't already, and you can continue watching another Casper video here. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.